Hi, I'm Mark Onis, Chief Content Officer of Skillsoft. I'm joined today by Tara Tapley, who leads our global services organization here at Skillsoft. AI's impact on the global economy is undeniable. It's impacting how organizations work together, the products they build, and ultimately how leaders lead in this new generation of AI-powered innovation. The rate of transformation is undeniable. By some estimates, IDC has suggested that the application of AI will generate somewhere on the order of $1 trillion in productivity gains by 2026. And at the same point in time, as we think about, this disruption and its impact on skill building, there's two other stats that really come to the top of mind. Number one, based on some research that McKinsey has done, nearly 70% of all efforts to transform or actually, impact the trajectory of the organization usually fail, which is a pretty shocking statistic. Another really interesting statistic is that, a recent survey by Gartner suggests that only 23% of HR leaders are confident that they have rising leaders inside their organization that can meet the future demands of the global economy and the workplace. Now, how do we think about skill transformation through this lens? Most organizations progress through some level of AI maturity, and this is just a very simple abstraction of what those phases look like. Usually organizations start with some level of exploration, and in 2023 we really saw that come to the forefront. We saw organizations and employees in the workforce really, getting involved in ChatGPT, doing some basic prompt engineering, just trying to experiment with the technology and see how they could actually apply that in the job. But very, very soon you get into more formalized experimentation and actually the construction of use cases, and usually mobilizers formalize around that. And you start really trying to understand how you can apply that to everyday tasks. But no sooner do you come out of experimentation that you want to get into innovation. And that's when you start to develop new roles. You start to actually upgrade the infrastructure. And then that generally lays the foundation for the realization phase where you actually transform work. And usually these four phases can be, impacted or, will influence your people, your platforms, the processes that you work through, and even the policies of the organization. So the question is, how do you upskill and reskill people through this time of rapid transformation? So a curriculum and an approach that Skillsoft is starting to employ is this concept of an AI skill accelerator. And what we've actually defined are kind of three fundamental target personas for this. The frontline end users, those that actually do the work every day. And these can be the information workers. They can be folks that are on the front line dealing with customers, those that are selling the products, those designing the products, even folks in your HR and talent organizations. But all of these constituencies will fundamentally have their work influenced by generative AI. And they need to learn new things and new approaches for that. And then we have the leaders and the mobilizers. These are the folks who are responsible for leading that transformation, for actually catalyzing the organization around this new transformative technology. And then we have our technologists and developers. These are the folks that are actually have their hands on the keyboards, that are actually developing the next level platforms and capabilities of the enterprise that will actually fuel and propel the next level of growth. And as most organizations think about this, and they think about actually moving up the maturity curve that we just looked at in the previous slide, one way to think about this is in a 30-day, 60-day, and 120-day plan. So we've kind of gone ahead and named those as the activate phase, the accelerate phase, and the transform phase. Now, to get into a little bit more detail on what this looks like and how these phases kind of play out, one way is to think about this is through a very simple kind of four-phase process. Most organizations go through some level of assessment where they establish a fact base of the current state. We have a whole library of skill benchmarks and diagnostic instruments and assessments that help you really get underneath what the current capability of the workforce is. From there, you can start getting into a level of indexing of what that workforce is and actually making some recommendations so you know where you need to focus the training effort. So you can get a score, you can get a point of view and a perspective on, what is the overall capability of the organization. And our assessments and diagnostics that were rolled out in the assessment phase can help you get to that reporting and index level diagnostic here at stage 2. But no sooner do you complete the first two phases that you start to develop people, and that is the rapid upskilling and reskilling of the organization. And that's actually where, everything from our self-study curriculum, our video-based content, our Aspire journeys, our collaborative experiences through leader camps, instructor-led training, and even our coaching experience actually help people perform on the job. And all of these things translate to impact. And that's actually where our skill analytics dashboards, some of the ROI features of our products help you illustrate that the skill gain across the enterprise. And you can actually construct and look at that by role, by function, even by division. Now, to get into a little bit more detail on what the curriculums look like. So let's start with the frontline end users. So a way to think about this, and again, this kind of goes back to kind of our point of view on maturity. As we think about that first 30 days in the activate phase, that's when we roll out that first level assessment around, the foundations of guardrails for generative AI. This gives at least a comprehensive, baseline index and perspective on where people's capability sits. And again, you can actually get some good formative recommendations around training and things for the organization to take out of that initial assessment. From there, as we get into the develop phase, you can then curate some of the e-learning products. And I have some examples here, generative AI and its impact in everyday business and navigating AI and ethical challenges and risks. And then you can see how we actually apply some of these things using our Skillsoft Casey, our conversation AI simulator tool, to help these folks, the frontline, actually practice all these different considerations each day. And then from there, we can start to move into the accelerate phase. So as we move into the 60-day time frame, that you can see here, this is where we start getting more hands-on with the different tool sets and technologies. We get into Copilot, we get into ChatGPT and prompt engineering. We get into some interactive practice exercises. You can see we can leverage Codecademy for some of these activities with prompt engineering with ChatGPT and a whole host of other courses that we have that actually can be applied to that. And then finally, once we move into the transform phase, you can see here's where we start thinking about AI as kind of an ongoing element of our overall business. And this is actually where we start getting into higher order, more applied applications of the technology, prompt engineering for programming literacy. So actually helping non-technology people kind of apply AI in low-code or no-code environments. And then actually thinking about some of the human implications, like leveraging AI as a team member, fostering growth mindset, even getting into some collaborative experiences through ILT classes like AI Ops for business innovators, as well as some other interactive practice exercises. Now, when we actually go into the leader and mobilizer phase, or constituency, I should say, again, you can see that this follows a very similar cadence. Again, activate, accelerate, and transform. Again, in the activation phase, your leaders then can actually start getting into, again, those same foundational topics on, what it means to lead an AI transformation. We have a basic benchmark assessment on that. So you can get a sense for where people's capabilities and their knowledge lies. And then you can get into some very specific training, again, on those same foundational aspects. But instead of just, thinking about this in the context of, the very specific kind of ethical challenges and so forth, we actually get into guardrails and governance and how to actually apply some of those capabilities across the enterprise. And then as we move into the acceleration phase, this is actually where we get into things like leading, in the age of generative AI, leading through disruption with empathy, again, encouraging innovation and experimentation. Again, we're using our out-of-the-box, off-the-shelf self-study curriculum to do this, as well as then leveraging the next level of benchmarks, AI and ML for non-technology leaders. Again, a way for you to measure kind of the capability of your workforce in that acceleration phase. And then you can see here is how we're starting to apply some of the interactive practice and then doing some of the behavior changing with group coaching and some other capabilities that we have. And then ultimately in the 120-day phase, the transform phase of the rollout, we can then see how we get into thinking about externalities. We get into more detail around, AI and governance and guardrails. We start to think about, how you prepare your organization for a generative AI future, how you embrace risk and learn from setbacks. And so you can see how all these different content modalities actually start to come to play and actually then allow you to even start to apply these things with our Skillsoft Casey scenarios. So you can actually start to see how some of these creative scenarios and implications start to play out. And again, we believe that through our leadership coaching, we can then apply those things on the job for a much more sustained period across the business as you navigate that transformation. And then finally, as we think about our technologists and developers, again, following the activate, accelerate, and transform cadence, again, initially in the first 30 days, really the goal here is to get, your developers, your technology folks to really think about, how to apply AI in a responsible and kind of ethical fashion. In many cases, they may actually already know a lot of the foundational elements that you had to teach the other two cohorts. But the idea here is to really get them to think about what the application of AI looks like, and then maybe get into some more detail on prompt engineering from a data programming and even kind of a cybersecurity perspective. What does prompt engineering or generative AI mean in each one of those specific functions? And then next we get into the accelerate phase. So here you can get into start developing some prompt engineering examples and use cases, creating different prompt engineering applications and full stack developer and kind of other software development approaches, and then even getting in some collaborative exercises through a boot camp on turbocharging your code with kind of hands-on generative AI developer tool sets. And you can see here we've got an instructor-led workshop that's been curated into that phase. And then finally, once we work into the transform phase, you can see we get into higher order solutions, and these start to get into even thinking about some cybersecurity implications. So in this case, we've actually taken prompt engineering for ethical hacking, prompt engineering for ethical hacking, and generative AI fusion, bringing those two worlds together. And you can see here we've actually curated some collaborative exercises around NLP and RPPA. So this tends to be a blend of both our off-the-shelf curriculum as well as some of our instructor-led services or program development, as well as some curation activities that we use to kind of make all these things really come to life. And with all that said, what I'd like to do now is actually pass the baton over to Tara to describe our professional services offerings and how we actually bring this to bear through all of our global clients.
Thank you so much, Mark. And so as Mark talked about, as we want to help you activate, accelerate, and transform your organization through AI learning, we know that there are a lot of tools and technologies that are available to you to build these very specific programs. And as such, professional services is chartered with ensuring that our tools, technologies, and content are aligned directly to your AI skilling strategy. We know each of our customers will leverage AI in a very different way, and we're here to help you curate those experiences. Whether it be tailoring our existing content, building custom case scenarios to help you change behavior, supporting your coaching of your leaders, or even helping your technologists transform their day-to-day work by applying AI strategies, we're here to help you. And we're here to help you with every step of that framework from activate, accelerate, and transform.
Great. Thank you, Tara. And with all that said, we're happy to continue this dialogue. So if anything that we've mentioned during this brief recording has struck a chord or is something that you'd be interested in learning more about, again, feel free to reach out to the contact information provided on the page, and we'd be happy to have a deeper discussion on anything we've described. And with all that said, we'll leave the conversation there for now and look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again.